another man's wife, sent him up to be killed so that he could have the wife, and they have a baby, and the baby dies. This is in the Bible, too. So all these things are in there to show us right and wrong of what is good for your relationship with God and what is not good for your relationship with God. Okay, I'm going to hush now because I think Jake has a story he wants to tell, and I'm going to let him tell it.
Oh, I was just kind of reminded of Ecclesiastes 3 when you were talking earlier, and we're just really interested about the way you talked about the wine and thought about how the process of fermentation is really aging, and then also,
right.
But there's a rebirth, story in there because, pouring out old wine into new wineskins, that you're becoming refreshed, you're becoming young again, and it's thinking of the human body almost as the wineskin. We have all this. We are a sack of fluid. We really are a chemical creature, and that
that we are.
But we're lit up. The light of all the galaxy, but the sun and God's light, it all kind of focuses through us. So there is that chemical reaction there, that we are lit up with energy, and that's kind of and then fermentation and thinking of ourselves as the wine. For me, it's not just a metaphor; it's a very literal scientific idea. This is the deep ancient wisdom. I love your idea of the hidden treasures. It is Indiana Jonesing around,
Mm-hmm. And that's why you're a part of this show. I don't know if people realize it or not, but you being a part of the show was not planned from the very beginning, and you just came to be, you came in to listen to the show. But as soon as I heard you talking, I'm going, okay, God, you did good, because I knew that you were a very important part of this show because you have insight that I do not have. And just what you said, oh man, it made me feel real good to hear what you were saying. And this old wineskin, when you said that, it reminded me too what God spoke to my heart some time ago about how old wineskin is our old stinking thinking tradition, beliefs, or whatever. You can't come into a relationship with God. This is with we can't do it this way. We got to believe this way. Our parents taught us to believe this way, and it goes back also to what he said about you have to give up mother or brother, give up your family, and that I think what he meant by that is that we have to think for ourselves. Mm-hmm. We have to seek the truth and wisdom for ourselves, and we can't cling to what family always did it this way or thought that way. If you want a relationship with God, you have to be seeking it for yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's what it's talking about, the old wineskin. You can't put new wine in that old wineskin because it just will not hold. All right, I'm going to go to one more thing. Is that really in the Bible? I love this. God showed this to me when I was teaching the 7th graders, but I had seen it before. But when I first read this, it's Ezekiel chapter 1. And when I first read this, I thought, whoa. He looks, a storm wind comes from the north, a huge cloud with flashing fire enveloped in brightness, and from the midst of this fire something gleamed like electrum. Within it were figures resembling 4 living creatures. They looked like this. Their form was human, but each had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs went straight down. The soles of their feet were round. They sparkled with a gleam like burnished browns. Sounds like something out of a science fiction story, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Their faces was like this. Each 4 had the face of a man, but on the right side was the face of a lion, on the left side the face of an ox, and finally each had the face of an eagle.
Oh, yeah, that's the 4 directions.
Mm-hmm. And their faces and their wings all had their 4 sides. They did not turn when they moved, but each went straight forward. Each went straight wherever the Spirit wished them to go. There they would go, and they did not turn when they moved. Human hands were under each wing, and the wings of one touched one another, and each had 2 wings spread out above that touched one another's, while the 2 wings, but anyhow, it just goes on and on. And as I looked at the living creatures, I saw wheels on the ground, one beside each of the 4 living creatures, and the wheels had sparkling appearance of chrysolite, and all 4 of them looked the same, and they were constructed through one wheel were within another. And they would move in any of the four directions they faced without veering as they moved. And the four of them had rims, and I saw their rims were full of eyes all around. When the living creatures moved, the wheels moved, and when the living creatures was raised from the ground, the wheels also were raised. Wherever the Spirit wished it to go, the wheels went, and they were raised together. And over the head of the living creature, something like a firmament could be seen, seeming like glittering crystal stretched straight out from their heads. Just reading this, and you need to read this whole chapter 1 of Ezekiel. It sounds very much to me, and I believe in flying saucers because Ezekiel, it looks like he saw one. And I believe in beings from outer space, and those beings are angels.
Yep.
Those beings, it could be the Spirit of God himself. But there's definitely something out there, folks, and it's God.
Yeah, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Well, some people interpret. Some people interpret the like. I'm trying to think how to put this. What we believe would be angels. Some say, "Oh, those are the aliens that came to Earth, and they're looking out for us from a different dimensional plane or something." And who's to know? I mean, if they have a good intention, then maybe God has provided them for us. I mean, in His infinite creative abilities, you know. But I also it makes me remember when I was a little kid. There was a show when I was about 6 years old. I think it was on like 2 years on NBC called Project UFO, and they always had a mysterious theme song in which they said the Book of Ezekiel, and you just reminded me of that. How it was even in Ezekiel that he saw, what they believe a lot of interpret as alien craft and flying saucers, and it made me as a little kid go, "Wow, I want to read the Bible," and that also reminds me not to get off on a tangent, but. I think a point I've made either on your show or others here that when you're bringing up how God uses all types of people and things to spread His message, that in the big controversy that was going on in the past month over the movie Noah, and is this big studio guy who's an atheist, the director, is he authorized to tell the story of God? And then and I think he did a fine job and did an entertaining movie that would make young boys want to pick up a Bible and read and go, "Wow, what's in the Bible?" And I think it's the same thing here, that some of these stories are intended not just in and of themselves to be meaningful, but also, and if we're to believe they're true, great. But I think they're also intended to make people go, "Wow." And maybe they're told in passing some of the more spectacular or mind-bending moments like this, but they're designed to hook us in for what the real messages and the meat are.
Right. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Now, I was not led. When God leads me to go see a movie, I go see a movie. I was personally not led to go see Noah, because I've read the story.
No, I understand
but
the controversy.
I do believe, though, that I read your criticism. You're not your critic, what do you want to call it? Your write-up about it, and how it was well written, and the movie was really a good movie for what qualities of a movie should be. And I really felt what the Holy Spirit was speaking in my heart was that, just like I said earlier, that if God can speak through a donkey, He can speak through anything. And if it would bring people to want to go look into the book itself, to read the book, then he accomplished His work. Sure. And how many people out there will not go see a Christian movie, because it's a Christian movie, that would go see Noah, though, because there was this controversy about it. And they would go see it.
Yeah.
So, mission accomplished. There you go.
Yeah.
That's always what hooked me, was the mystery. Of figuring it out yourself. Ezekiel's one of those ones that caught my attention early on. I was an astronomy buff as a child before I branched out into other science. And in the esoteric tradition, there's a lot of deep astronomical symbolism in Ezekiel. And and I'd love sometime, maybe it's a different show, But one of that's how I kind of really I've always telling Carl about how, like you mentioned earlier, about how church is this place where you can go and be filled up. And that was one thing that was proven to me in my adventures is here were these, cathedrals and sometimes, I've been led to synagogues and mosques and other temples and other places where you can have a very special experience of God. And another thing you get to do is meet all these wonderful old artists and scientists and these communities who've come around these cultures where this knowledge has been preserved. And to really study astronomy, the Vatican Observatory, I had a friend who would do a presentation there, very controversial, but he's Austrian, and so he's very kind of proudly Catholic in his very offbeat way, and has these old stones in the neighborhood. So he's very much into the old astronomy, and so from him and other guys, I studied this. And this is always it's a wonderful dimension to look at the Bible, not just as literature or history, but as a record of science as well, and a controversial record of science that we can have a very informative debate about.
Right. That's one of the things that the Lord led me to when we started this show, was the realization that there's so many shows out there that are preaching a church, a domination or whatever, and their beliefs. And he says, this is not what this show is to be about. This is about daily walking and talking in your personal walk. And each person has their own personal walk. I'm not trying to prove to anybody that God exists. Is that something in there that you come to realize through your experience, and God Himself will find you. It's through the grace of God that all of us come into that realization, and usually it's preceded by us going into a deep pit of despair because we find that our life is meaningless. Yeah. And we don't know why, and we keep searching for the meaning of our life. We keep searching for that missing part. We keep searching for love. Something we experienced as we were growing up has led us to believe the lie that we're no good. We're not worthy. We're just, we're dumb, stupid. We're, whatever it is that is that lie within us that makes us feel like my life is worthless. And so, but God has put within each and every person, I really believe, the ability to find their way back to the source of all love and to find Him and to seek Him because they're so tired of the life they're living. I wanted to, there's another story that, this is not in, I don't think this is in the Protestants book. There's about 7 books in the Bible, Catholic Bible, that are not in the King James Version. But if anybody has not read the book of Tobit, Tobit, it's only about, it's a short book, only about, 13 chapters. It can be read within, 30 minutes. But it's a neat story, and it's a story about a man who's a very righteous man, who's always doing good, always burying the dead, and he becomes blind because he sleeps out in the next to the wall in the courtyard. And he left his face uncovered, and there were birds above him, and there were worm droppings settled in his eyes, causing cataracts, and therefore he becomes blind. So in his inability to take care of his family, he sends his son, Tobias, I think that's his name, yes, he says, I left some money with some people in another town, and if you go get that money, we'll be able to take care of ourselves. So at the same time that Tobit praying for death because of what's happened to him, over in this other town is Sarah, who's praying for death also because Sarah has this problem. Every time she gets married, already 7 times, on the wedding night, a demon comes and kills the husbands. And so she wants to die. And so the God is hearing both of these people's prayers, and so to answer them, He sends Raphael, which is an angel, to remove the cataracts from Tobit's eyes and to get Sarah married to Tobit's son Tobiah. So this is, and it goes on then to the story of how this all happens. But again, this is one of these stories in the Bible you go, what? And along the way, on the journey to this other town Tobiah is going, he goes down to wash his feet in the river. A large fish suddenly leaps out of the water and tries to swallow his foot. And the angel said to him, take hold of the fish and don't let it get away. So he seizes the fish, hauls it up on the shore. Angel says, cut the fish open, take out the gall, heart, and liver, and keep them with you, but throw away everything else. So he did that. He